Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm playing a donation deck that I'm calling SCAMWISE. So this is a Samwise the Stouthearted deck with a sort of scam package attached to it with the Solitudes, and we're trying to get some value out of that. So this donation deck is a monowhite deck, obviously, and it's kind of reminding me a lot of the Perez deck that I've played on the channel a couple of times that won a couple of challenges, where you're sort of leveraging Urza's Saga and then some of the sort of good white spells alongside it in terms of creatures. So it's not quite Death and Taxes, it's not quite Initiative, but it's kind of got a bit of both thrown in there. But we're obviously going hard into the Lord of the Rings theme today, and I've just finished marathoning the extended movies this weekend. So this is very on theme for the mood I'm in right now. So we've got a lot of readers here, so let's get into it. So Samwise the Stouthearted is a 2-mana, 2/1 with flash. When he enters the battlefield, choose up to one target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, return it to your hand, then the ring tempts you. So the ring tempts you is a thing that gives you a buff on one of your creatures, so it's like makes it harder to block. I think it gives you a loot ability, and it ends up doing damage when it attacks, sort of thing. But basically what we're using this for is to keep recurring cards like Wasteland or Urza's Saga or Solitude, stuff like that. And if we have a Recruit of the Guard that dies, we can then go get it back and ping it again. Now, to go alongside this sort of constantly recurring engine type thing, we also have another Lord of the Rings card that I've not seen played before. Now, I'm not really sure how good this card is. We're going to try it because you never know till we try things, but it's worth a go, especially since we're a Chalice the Void deck, so we're going to be getting rid of a lot of the removal that can hit it. So, this is a 3-mana 2/3, which is not a great start, but the ability is quite strong. So it's 2 and tap, exile another target creature you control. You may return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If you don't, at the beginning of the next end step, return it to the battlefield, and it gains a vigilance and a lifelink counter. So you can blink something to dodge instant speed removal or sorcery speed removal with it effectively. And if you bring it back at the end of turn, then it comes back a lot stronger, so you can stick some lifelink counters on something like a Seasoned Dungeoneer or whatever. So that's an interesting one. We're going to see how that pans out. We have Stoneforge Mystic as a creature that can go and just win games on its own by going fetching Kaldra. But we also have another Lord of the Rings card, because why not? We're going deep into the theme today. So this is a 3-mana equipment with 2-mana equips. It's kind of the same as one of the Swords of X and Y. But this gives equip creature +3/+1. So that's quite a big boost of stats there. And whenever it attacks, create 2 tapped 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. If the creature holding this is legendary, those 2 tokens come in tapped and attacking. So obviously legends is something we've got a lot of. We've got Samwise, we've got Thalia, we've got Gilraen as well. So the ring tempts you mechanic, it makes the creature who is your ring bearer into a legend. So we should be able to leverage this quite nicely on some stuff. Now, is this better than one of the Swords of X and Y? I don't know, but we're here to test it out and have a go. And who doesn't love seeing some new cards from Lord of the Rings, right? To round us out, we've got some sort of disruptive white cards. Obviously the Solitude, which I mentioned as part of our sort of scammy package, or our Sam-y package. We have these 4 Chancellor of the Annex, which is a thing that I saw in Perez's build as well. So this is helpful against the combat decks. It slows them down a little bit and lets you get your hooks in with things like Thalia and stuff, and can just give you a nice little boost in the game. It kind of breaks serve of the play-draw rule a lot of the times. And if we get to go all the way with Initiative off Seasoned Dungeoneer, which is probably the best win condition on our deck, because, you know, Initiative is pretty broken. So if we get to go through the dungeon, then we can maybe find this as well. And this also pitches to Chrome Mox and Solitude. So it's not really a wasted card. It's not just going to hang around in our hand. We've got things to pitch it to. And we have some Chalice of the Void. So we're going to be putting this on 1 to stop things like Swords to Plowshares. So our creatures are pretty good there. We also stop things like Brainstorm, Ponder, etc., etc. Now, it can sometimes get in the way of our Shadowspear coming down, but that's mainly going to be found off of the Urza's Saga anyway. Mana base wise, I mentioned we have the 4 Wastelands and 3 Sagas. We've got a whole bunch of planes, which is something I really enjoy here. 4 Ancient Tombs, so we're not going really deep into the extra mana of like City of Traitors and stuff like that. We've just got the Tombs, so we don't have disappearing mana apart from the Sagas. We've got a couple of Karakas, which we can leverage for our own Sam and do some pretty gross things like that and just assemble like a Wasteland lock that way around. And obviously we can save any of our creatures from removal if they are the ring bearer, because they'll be legendary with Karakas. Fast mana, we got the Chrome Moxes. We have 1 Lotus Petal. Again, this is something that's probably going to be fetched off of Urza's Saga, but it's like the 5th way, or sorry, the 9th way of making 2 mana on turn 1 for the Chalice. or a Thalia or a Stoneforge or whatever, because we kind of want to skip to 2, but we're not trying to get to 4 all the time. Like getting to 2 is enough of a head start for us. And we have one Urza's Bauble in case we just need a redraw because we're running out of action. We can do that off of the Urza Saga. And that's it for the main deck. Some quite interesting stuff. I think there's definitely some tweakage with numbers to be had here, but I want to kind of play this deck as is and see how these new cards feel, because I've not played with Samwise, not played with Gilraen, not played with Andúril. So there's a lot of stuff here that I've not played with, and all the theory craft in the world is nothing compared to actually playing the cards. So let's give them a go. Sideboard wise, we've got some plans built into the sideboard. So we have 4 Stony Silence. If we're against a deck which requires Artifact Hate, you need the hardest Artifact Hate possible because of the One Ring. So Stony Silence shuts that deck down completely. And I usually don't have an answer for it in the colourless build because they're running Dismember for Collect Truth. So they really struggle against things like Null Rod and Stony Silence. We've got Thalia, good against Storm stuff. We can board this in to have a 4th copy if we need it. We have 3 Containment Priests, which are Graveyard Hate and Hate for Show and Tell and Green Sun Zenith stuff. We have 2 Faerie Macabre, which is Graveyard Hate. We've got Loran, which is a nice legend that we can keep bouncing with our Karakas or reusing with Samwise. So we can kind of get that going. We've got a couple of different pieces of equipment here. So Trailblazer's Torch is a way that we can get the initiative if we're in a matchup where our opponent's just going to be removing our stuff, but not necessarily pressuring us. We can add in the Trailblazer's Torch, and just putting this into play means that our opponent's got to do something whilst we tick up to pretty much winning the game, is what usually happens when you go to the dungeon a couple of times. And we have a Batterskull in case we need to sort of tussle with some decks that have some reasonable pressure on the board, and we need some decent meat in there to beat them off. Because like this can trade with a Chaos Adventurer and gain you some life, depending on where their counters go and stuff like that. But, you know, it's pretty useful. It's good at pressuring in matchups because of the vigilance as well. So that's what that's there for. And we have 2 Council Judgments as a catch-all answer. It can blow up anything that we need it to blow up. It can also hit things that you're not normally allowed to target, things like True Name Nemesis, for example. So that's pretty much the deck. We've got a lot of good cards in this deck, and it looks slightly anemic in terms of like what we're doing. Like, you know, we've got these sorts of things that if we're using them as removal and stuff, these aren't necessarily board presence cards. But from playing the mono-white Perez deck that's done very well, sort of decks that are built like this actually perform pretty well, in my experience. Like, well, Perez won back-to-back challenges with it. So now, Orcish Bowmasters is in the format. So we are a little bit vulnerable with these 2/1s in the deck. And obviously we have a 1/1 here too. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. But Stoneforge Mystic can do a lot of work there in theory. If we can stick an Andúril on something, then maybe we'll get there too. So yeah, pretty cool. If you want to see your own donation decks on the channel, just get in touch. You drop us a message below in the comments section or find me on the Discord, which is linked in the description. Remember to like and subscribe, and let's play some Legacy. Alright, we're into round 1. We just mulliganed a hand here. Sorry, I had the mic switched off, so it's going to cut to here, I think. But yeah, so this is an opening hand that I like the look of. We have the ability to tax them with a Chancellor, then put it under a Chrome Mox and make a Thalia as early as turn 1. Seems pretty nice to me. Lord of the Rings basic, of course. Let's play our Lotus Petal. Let's play this Chrome Mox. Let's imprint this Chancellor. We can play Samwise and Thalia, if I'm right here. So we pay 2 mana for Samwise, which puts this Lotus Petal back in our hand, which we then play and play the Thalia. Is 4 power on turn 1 good enough? The problem with this is it's going to be very bad against Bowmasters. So I think the plan here is to just play the Thalia for now. Consider. Okay, so our opponent is most likely on a Doomsday pile. That's where you would see consider most often. Bayou. Okay. 2 mana Preordain. This means we might be safer for Samwise, but I imagine they probably still have Bowmasters. The card's just too good. Not the ideal deck building situation we've found ourselves in here, is it? Let's go to attacks. So we can hold up Samwise if we want it now. We will crack this now. Doomsday on top of our opponent's library. Alright. Solitude is probably not going to be great for us. I suspect our opponent is going to cast Doomsday here. Oh wait, no, they need another mana for this first, actually, don't they? Are we supposed to... If we attack them for 4 on the next turn, we'll put them to 13. So when they lose half their life, they'll lose 7, which will put them to 6. So still not enough to kill them in one hit. Interesting. Then we do play this, and we go and get our Lotus Petal back. Not that that's great with the Thalia in play. But we just want pressure on their life total here. And I guess we'll make Sam the Ring Bearer here. So if you're not familiar with this, it's legendary, can't be blocked by bigger creatures. The second time it happens, you get to loot. The third time, it makes all your guys have like slow death touch, so that they die at end of combat when they're blocked. And last one is they lose 3 life. So another Sam would be not unhelpful here. Speaking of unhelpful though, we're kind of tripping over our own Thalia a little bit here. If they have Orcish Bowmasters, we could be in trouble here. Right, so we've got a little bit of damage in there. But our opponent, if they find a land, they get to Doomsday next turn. Abrupt Decay on the Thalia. Okay, so they get to Doomsday next turn anyway. Understood. With a blue mana floating. So we might just be dead right now if they've got a cantrip in hand. Which they might well have in hand because obviously we were suppressing what they could cast. Alright, let's have a look at their list here. What are we seeing here? No Bowmasters that I can see. But they've got an Unearth strategy built in there. As a way of reanimating their guy. They've got Uros as their backup plan. Lions Like Diamonds not in there. Okay. Are we dead this turn? No, okay. So if we play Samwise now, this guy becomes a Ring Bearer Mark II. What does that actually do for us? We keep this one. So he can return himself here. If we had another land, that would be interesting. So now this guy should loot, I believe. So we're looking for like a Chalice to shut down something. A Wasteland. That's not that helpful, unfortunately. So we can deploy a Wasteland. If we... I don't think it's going to make a difference what we hit here. Let's get rid of a tropical island. And see. Yeah, so if you have a Sam in play, you can just use the other Sam a few times and give yourself... Okay, we can kill this. That's not a problem. Interesting choice. Yeah, so like I said, if you have a Sam in play, you can just keep playing the other Sam and returning itself over and over again, which is kind of an interesting one. So this creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, but can be blocked by creatures with lesser power, like this one. I think we have to get rid of the Baleful Strix. It's quite an interesting version of the old Doomsday. Okay, so we can go to attacks now. We're still so far away from being able to win the game here. Guess we'll get rid of one of these. Just takes a whole turn off of our clock, which is probably something we don't have in this game. Misty Rainforest, so they fetch out here. They have one cycler of like the one that blows up a land. There's a Thassa's Oracle. Okay, I don't need the cycler. That's done. Sure. So they didn't have street wraiths or anything going on. That's kind of interesting. Alright. Doomsday. A tough matchup for the white decks as a general rule. What would I like here? This Thalia is going to be useful. Aside from that, not really sure. Like, the Gilraen is probably going to be quite slow. These Solitudes, we've seen the Euro, so we want to keep these Solitudes in for the Euro plan, I think. We don't want to board anything else for that plan. Sure, let's try it like this. We could board in, you know, like Faerie Macabre and stuff. I just don't think that's necessary. Stony Silence can have an impact if they're on like Lotus Petals and things, but our opponents seem to be a little bit slower and more controlly. So I'm going to run like this and just try and tax their cantrips with Chalice and Thalia. Okay, we can keep this. And start with Chancellor, so that at least gives us a turn off, most likely. We don't have a turn 1 play, sadly. But we can do some pretty silly stuff with Sam and Wasteland locking our opponent. Well, I say Wasteland locking. We get to use our Wasteland twice. Which, if you know me, you know it's something I'm going to do. Are they going to pay for this Lion's Eye Diamond? They are. Okay. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Okay, so I think our plan here is no longer a Sam plan. We're just going to play this Thalia, followed by the Seasoned Dungeoneer, and win the game off of that, in theory. Many games have been won by Seasoned Dungeoneer. Okay, Preordain. After we've done the Seasoned Dungeoneer, we'll definitely be Wastelanding our opponent. One top, one bottom from our opponent there. Go to attacks. This isn't one of the creature types that Dungeoneer cares about, otherwise we play the Dungeoneer first. This is a soldier, rather than one of the party types. Players Wasteland. The only way they can counter this is if they use a Lion's Eye Diamond, which I don't think they're going to want to do. Take one of these planes, and then we will pass the turn. So we've got 7 damage coming in next turn, and we're going to double Wasteland our opponent in the next couple of turns. Fatal Push. That took our opponent a reasonable amount of resources, though. Tried to tap 2 lands to do that, and a Ponder, sure. Let's forge up our guy. This is going to be a race. So I think this is where we want to be. Chalice of the Void for 1 is something I like here. So I think we start off with a Chalice on 1. Then we play our planes. Then we Wasteland their... Let's go with one of their blue sources. We get rid of the Underground Sea. Let's get Sam back in here. Wasteland. Seasoned Dungeoneer can be a ring bearer. Right, let's scooping it up. Not bad. I think we just run it back same again. Let's give it a whirl. Turn 2 Thalia is what our hand does here. Is that good enough? This is one of the cards we definitely want to be casting. Is turn 2 too slow? Might well be. I think we do have to keep this though. Ponder, that's good for us. It's not a Dark Ritual Doomsday. Our opponent didn't seem like they were a big Dark Ritual. They seemed like they were sort of like a bug control deck that happened to have these things in. Okay, so let's just play our Shadowspear. Yes, they look like a bug control deck with Doomsday in. There's like an I win button. A Brainstorm, sure. Not a fetch land. Interesting. Play our Urza Saga. And play our Thalia. Right, we're getting a Force of Will out of this. Pitching an array. Okay. Consider... Okay, so this is milling one of the Brainstorm cards. Yeah, but Thassa's Oracle. Okay. Baleful Strix. Understood. I think we're playing a Karakas here, and we're holding up either Sam or Urza Saga. Probably just making Urza Saga construct though. Another Baleful Strix. Sure. I imagine they're getting 1 poke in here. Yeah. Let's make a guy. Make another guy. Interesting. I think I want a Chrome Mox here. I'm just going to imprint this Seasoned Dungeoneer. And then we can play out the Urza Saga here. And then equip this to our guy. We have to get through these Baleful Strixes. This is not the ideal way of doing it, but it does take a big chunk out of their life total. I'll put a delta from our opponent. We're about to see a Doomsday. I'll put them to 7 if they do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're kind of closing in on casting the Kaldra Compleat as a win condition is what we're trying to do here. Alright. What are we seeing in here? So I think we're playing out this Chalice of the Void on 1. That will drop off any of their cantrips if they've arranged some sort of preordained pondery type pile. Force of Will. So there's the Brainstorm that we thought might be in their pile. So now what do we do? If we attack with this, we kill this. If we play this out, we definitely get to cast our Kaldra next turn. Do we want to attack him with our construct token here? I don't think so. if they have some sort of edict effect. It doesn't really affect our clock because the Seasoned Dungeoneer is unblockable anyway. So they have to get rid of it. Sure, they can Thought Seed and take the Kaldra away, but we have lethal next turn. We forge on our Dungeoneer, we give him the Shadowspear. And then we bash in for a bunch. Baleful Strix. Sure, this doesn't stop our opponent from losing the game. Unless they've got, like, Lion's Eye Diamond and a cantrip, like a 0 mana cantrip, like Street Wraith or Edge of Autumn. Yep, are they going to crack their Lion's Eye Diamond in response for triple blue? They are. And they surveil, away one, draw the last card, which is Batterskull. Yep, our opponent got us there. We run them pretty close, a lot closer than I was expecting, considering these decks normally kind of beat up on slightly fairer decks. Let's go to round 2. We're in round 2. Our hand is incredibly slow. I don't think we can keep this one. Right, we make a turn 1 Stoneforge Mystic. If they can't answer it, they'll lose the game. We'll keep this. Question is, what are we putting under the Mox and what are we getting rid of? I think we have to get rid of Wasteland here. And then we're probably getting rid of the Samwise, I would say. So let's Chrome Mox. Let's put this Samwise under there. Let's go for a Stoneforge Mystic. Right, we're in. Why is this so tiny? I would like a Kaldra Compleat. If they can't answer the Stoneforge Mystic, Kaldra Compleat is a very quick clock. Alright, Pithing Needle on the old Stoneforge Mystic. So, Yavimaya into Pithing Needle is a thing you'd expect to see from a Dark Depths player. And I should know, because I am one. Right, let's shut off crop rotations and discard spells. The other option is our opponent is on the Cloudpost deck. Either way, we want to save this Wasteland for something better. Or I guess it could just be lands and they have their one-off Pithing Needle from there as a Saga. That is the other option. There's a Saga, okay. With a Wasteland in play. Okay. Not getting in the big damages here. Let's Wasteland away the Saga before they can start making tokens. I suspect our opponent is just on lands and drew their one of Pithing Needle. That's what I'm getting the impression of right now. Go with the Bone Willows. Yep. So they can punish and fire away our Stoneforge Mystic at any time. This is awkward. We can't play our Seasoned Dungeoneer because our Chrome Mox doesn't have any cards to imprint because it can only imprint non-artifact cards. There's an argument for playing Chrome Mox on 0. Chalice on 0 to stop the Mox Diamond. But if they had a Mox Diamond, it probably would have come down by now anyway. And if we can play it on 2, we can shut off something else. Okay. This time we can play a Chrome Mox, which gets our Stoneforge kind of as a mana source here. And then we can nearly play a Dungeoneer. We could all do that in one turn. That leaves us not as exposed to other things. If they're running Grove of the Burn Willows, they're probably not running the Sphere of Resistance. We could be running into an Endurance, but our creature is so bad that it doesn't really matter. Yep, okay, there it is. Yeah, so we lost our 1-2 with no abilities. It's not the end of the world, to be honest. We could deploy the Stoneforge Mystic here and try and draw into something like a... what we got? We got the Andúril, where the Lord of the Rings weapon. We could get that off of our Stoneforge Mystic, which is something we could play, but it's going to take 2 additional turns to do anything with that, and it's going to cost us our Dungeoneer. I think we're better off holding the Dungeoneer and the Stoneforge and trying to rip a land so we can Chrome Mox and then play the Seasoned Dungeoneer, which should do a decent amount of stuff. Alright. This is a Wasteland. It's just got the Lord of the Rings stuff on it. Okay. So we're still not anywhere. And we've got another pitch card. I think we just have to hold again, this is awkward. Our opponent is probably favoured in this matchup as well, I would say. I have a lot of ways of dealing with our little guys. They can ignore some of the stuff we're doing, and they do have a really nice I win button. Now we can Solitude that away when the time comes. We're kind of overloaded with colourless cards rather than white cards that we need. A land? A land. Unfortunately, they can wasteland this before the trigger resolves, so we don't get a counter. We can't tap this for mana now. Oh, we can actually because of the Yavimaya actually. That's a good point. Okay. So that goes away. Play this. We'll imprint our Stoneforge. And we'll jam our guy. Aha. Let's get Lord of the Rings land. One of these nice little planes. One of these ones. There we go. Just removing a character from Dark Depths. That's... Now, there is a question of do we let them attack us with this endurance? And do we block so that they can kill our creature with Punishing Fire? Or do we just take it? Alright, they don't have Punishing Fire. Yeah, they don't have Punishing Fire. Okay, because this can't block anyway. What is more important to us now? Getting better cards, I think, is more important than making this guy bigger. So I think we're going to... Lost Well here. This can go on the bottom. I don't think either of these is where we want to be right now. This is a good one if we can find a Wasteland to be friends with. So 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So we're kind of getting somewhere a little bit. So our creature gets protection from creatures. We drew a Karakas. That's pretty good with a Samwise as well. If we can find a Wasteland, we're kind of cooking with gas, really. And obviously our opponent does have a Wasteland of their own that we're going to have to deal with as well. But seems alright. Another Endurance. Okay. There's a Saga. Okay. Gonna need a Wasteland soon. Because we can hardcast this Solitude, I don't want to pitch cast it right now. I think this is worth giving it to the Ring Bearer too. Right. So Mox Diamond, getting rid of that land. Sure. Over to us. Another Plains. We'd rather play the Plains or the Karakas. The problem with the Karakas is that it can get Wastelanded, so we don't get to cast the Solitude when we want to. So I think we just play the Plains out here. We go to attacks. Send in the Clown. So we've got Plains off of our Seasoned Dungeoneer trigger. Now we're going into the Undercity. So I think we want Stash here. That gets us close to casting the Kaldra. And we can hard cast a Solitude as well, if we want to. We can't bring back a treasure with Samwise because it doesn't go to our graveyard. Well, it goes to our graveyard, but then immediately ceases to exist. So it's not a thing we can get back. Alright, they're just naturally removing counters. They get to remove 2 this turn, which is not nothing. Let's play a Solitude and get rid of one of these Endurances. I'm not going to block here, I'm just going to take the 3. Because we can try and gain some life on the backswing. And this Saga token is threatening to be a 3-3, so at least our Solitude will trade, whereas this way it would just be a chump. Okay, they've gone for the Scryroot as well. What they could have done is make a token in response and then made the token big enough that it's going to be hard for our Solitude to attack in. We get a Spooky Skeleton this turn. What is our decision point here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We could just jam a Kaldra Compleat and go to town. That seems pretty nice. Let's do that. Here's our Kaldra. So it should get us a Spooky Skeleton to block with. And the Solitude can gain us some life. I think we are attacking with everything here. Now if they have Punishing Fires, then I think we lose here. But I think if they've had Punishing Fires, we might have seen the attack of the Endurance earlier. Right, so they're just doing this, but they're letting us gain the life here. So we get Spooky Skeleton. And we go up to 8 life. Tight margins either way this game, I think. Yep, so they're making a construct here. They can go and get the Shadowspear and stick it on their construct. Okay, they got an expedition map. That's interesting. They do have a Punishing Fire here, which leaves us Exactly's dead. Alright, I think they must have just drawn that now. Because if they'd have had it earlier, they would have attacked with the Endurance into our Seasoned Dungeoneer. Unless they were just making a bluff. So they could have just had like the Stone Cold Reader, that was going to be a thing they want later on, maybe. I'm not really sure that's how it is, though. Right, Loran's Third Path is pretty useful here. And then what? They've shown us they've got more creatures because they've got these main deck endurances. But Batterskull is pretty good against that sort of thing. And Trailblazer's Torch, maybe we can just ride the initiative train. Thalia is not at its best, in my experience here. I don't hate these Faerie Macabre to get rid of Life from the Loam either. Samwise recurring our Wastelands is going to be nice. Solitude, we kind of need this. I don't think this is a Chancellor game. I think taxing our opponent by 1 is really where we want to be, and we can drop one of these Thalias, and that's round 60. I don't think we need to make any other changes here. Alright, let's submit like this and see how we fare. Is Chalice on 1 into Trailblazer's Torch okay? Because this will give us the mana we need to cast other things. I'm going to give it a go. I think this can get punished by a Wasteland. But we get to shut off crop rotation and exploration. So let's see if it works. Please don't Wasteland me, opponent. Mox Diamond. Okay. Maze of Ith. Urza Saga. Okay, that's not a Wasteland unless I can't really... Okay, just Life from Below Me, that's fine. There's no way they could get a Wasteland into play there, I don't think. Okay. Stop hitting ourselves. Let's get this Plains. So next turn we can play a Seasoned Dungeoneer. Maze of Ith is definitely on the annoying side. Lost Well here. Do some scrying. We'll put this on the bottom and we'll put the Solitude on the top so we can maintain the initiative here. Taking a bit of a hit from our life total, but... So I'm going to stash this turn and cast a Thalia. So we've got 2 creatures to attack with. They can't make a token with the mana they're representing right now. So Urza Saga is just going to be a thing that finds them more land. Life from Loam, Urza Saga, Urza Saga, Dark Depths, and Blast Zone. Okay. That might be too slow here. Tabernacle. Ah. Tabernacle, you say? Life total's a resource. Might as well use it. I'd love to find a Wasteland right now. Spooky Skeleton time. A Plains. Guess we're attacking. Don't really want to commit another creature here. Lotus Petal, yes, we'll get rid of that one. Yep. So we didn't get 2 damage this time. We're still holding up this Solitude if we need it. We can Wasteland the Maze of Ith and we can get some real pressure going. But they do have a Life from the Loam, so it only is gone for a turn cycle. Exploration into our Chalice of the Void, sure. Now, that might not be a mistake. It might be trying to fuel something in particular. I don't think they have Uro in their list, but it's not an impossibility. Let's keep paying for these guys. That's all we got. Let's go into Throne of the Dead 3. See what sort of creature we can find here. Recruiter of the Guard, I guess. Let's have another look for something else. What is going to be useful here? I think Faerie Macabre is going to be pretty good here. Alternatively, we can get the Round of the Third Path and blow up the Saga, but I think getting rid of the Life from the Loam is more important right now. Let's get rid of this Life from the Loam and this Dark Depths, I think. Oh, and we drew a Wasteland here. This is pretty good. Let's get rid of this Maze of Ith. Alright, our opponent's scoop into that. Recruiter of the Guard into the Faerie Macabre. What a great piece of interaction that was. Excellent. Let's go to the 3rd game of this match. Don't want to do anything differently here. I don't think so. I think we're under the gun a bit on the draw. The Chalice definitely looks worse. Is there a world where we're trimming some of these sorts of... No, we need this because it's good against their Wastelands that they can recur. No, I think we just have to resubmit here. As awkward as that may be. Is turn 2 Seasoned Dungeoneer around Wasteland good enough? Like, it's pretty good. Like, the initiative is pretty good against lands as a general rule. Obviously, lands decks have adapted since the initiative came out. You know, that's why our opponents got some endurances and stuff in their deck as well. It kind of helps with things like that. Is this going to name Stoneforge Mystic or Faerie Macabre? Stoneforge Mystic, sure. That means I'm about to draw Stoneforge Mystic. I did not draw Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, cool. Let's play this Plains. There's a tiger from our opponent. Life from Malone. Okay, so they've got their engine up and running. Understood. Let's get our engine up and running. Let's go Plains. And pass turn. We have our win condition. Imagine our opponent's just going to be... Okay, so they can dredge... So they've dredged Life from Malone. They can then use it to buy back this Wasteland and take our Ancient Tomb if they want to. No, they're just going for Wooded Foothills here, which means we might be looking at something like an Endurance. They can swing back. Alright, no, they're just doing Life from Malone now. That's interesting. They got an... Okay. Maybe they've got a Minsk and Boo. That would be pretty good. Looking at what's in play right now, I think I just want to forge before our opponent gets there with the Life from Malone. This could be a mistake. But I think our opponent's got the inevitability right now from Life from Malone when you need to just close the door before they find the answer. And we can use the Saga as a thing. I think actually we're probably just going to cast Chalice for 2 here, right? Probably should have done that pre-combat. In case they crop rotate. Yes, it's going to the graveyard. This does shut off a bunch of cards in our deck. But no more Life from Malone, no Punishing Fire. If they had a crop rotation, they probably would have fired it off by now. In the previous turns. Alright, we just got the match. Straight up there. Alright. Tough one. But initiative is pretty powerful. Just kind of does its thing. And I think shutting off their engine there was obviously a good play. They scooped to it. So let's go to round 3. We're 1-1. Right, our opening hand for round 3 is not a keeper. So let's mulligan this one. We can bauble and redraw, I guess. That's something. I think we actually getting rid of here. We can just play an Urza Saga game a little bit. Something has to go here. Our opponent's mulligan quite aggressively, so I want to keep this Karakas in case they're like a combo deck that wants to put legendary creatures into play. Maybe we're getting rid of the Seasoned Dungeoneer, as weird as that sounds. Right, Seasoned Dungeoneer is going to be a ways off. Especially if we're going to try and start on the Urza Saga plan. We might not be doing that. We might just be doing... okay, Windswept Heath. That's a bit friendlier. Maybe. Exploration. Okay. This old chestnut again. I see. A Wasteland. Okay, so we're not on the Urza Saga plan from the off. Unless we want to bait them out with our Samwise here. I think that's an interesting use of our time. The only problem is they can do this with it on the stack, which I'm not a fan of. Question is, do I want a bauble here or not? I can get a bauble back again. They've only got 2 cards in hand, so we get to see Winding Way. Okay, so they're going to have a whole bunch of cards in the near future. Is Samwise the Stouthearted getting us another bauble draw good enough? I don't think it hurts. I think we are not going to have a great time here. Because our opponent can draw a whole bunch of cards and dump a reasonable amount of them into play. Let's just keep drawing some cards though. Let's see if there's anything good in these cards that we're drawing. Thalia, that's not unhelpful. Stoneforge Mystic, that is a thing that we can actually try and win the game with. So, Winding Way. Alright, this is going to be a bit of an ask. So the Wasteland and the Maze of Ith. We have our own Wasteland, but we can't take them off of green. I think we just have to use the Wasteland at an opportune time to play around the Maze of Ith. I'm not going to insult my opponent by attacking here. I'm just going to go and get... do we get Andúril here? Because this gives us more stuff so we can go wide of the Maze of Ith. Maybe we go wide here. We're not going to attack into the Maze of Ith. There's no point wasting our time or theirs. Alright. A whole bunch of stuff in their hand. There's the Thespian stage, the Windswept Heath. What are we supposed to do here? We can deploy the Urza Saga. And if they don't waste it in response, we can use that to put in the weapon. Okay, they didn't do that. Okay, so now we're just going to use this Stoneforge Mystic to put the weapon in. We'll do that on our opponent's turn. Next turn we can equip it and try and get some bonus creatures here. We'll obviously stick it on our Samwise because that gives us more creatures attacking. Field of the Dead is now in our opponent's graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they can start this triggering this turn, which is not great, I'm going to say. Not great at all. Yep, so that triggers. And then when they get fetch lands, they get multiple zombies a turn. So it's going to go downhill very quickly from this point onwards. You don't see much of the old 8 mulch decks these days. It's nice to sort of see it back again. Even if it is going to beat us up a bit. Alright. Andúril. It's your time to shine. I think I will play a Chrome Mox and print one of these Thalias. So we equip it to this guy. So he's a 5/2. He can't be blocked because you're greater power, but they can just trade this zombie token. Not ideal. Do you want to attack and then use Karakas here? Maybe. But that's just going to get wastelanded immediately, isn't it? Is a problem. I'll play our own wasteland here. And we'll go to attacks. So we want a Maze of Ith this, that's fine by me. We're just trying to get some bonus creatures here. Okay, a Maze of Ithing one of our spirits. What are we supposed to do with our wasteland is the question. I think we use it in our opponent's turn to try and maybe deny some Field of the Dead here. Or we can get rid of the Maze of Ith at end step, so they can't replay it. But we're not really getting bothered by the Maze of Ith right now. Yeah, I'm not sure how we make our way back into this game. Yep, another Maze of Ith. I don't think we have a way that we can win this game. I guess Seasoned Dungeoneer, right? That's going to do some amount of stuff for us if we can get it. But the problem is, double Field of the Dead. Yeah, I'm happy to call this one. I don't think we're winning that. And I respect my opponent's time enough to go next. So, Faerie Macabre's good. Trailblazer's Torch is an interesting one, as is Batterskull. I think I would like them both here. And the Loran of the Third Path. The Chancellor Annex doesn't feel amazing here to me. And are we trimming a Thalia? Seems fine. Or are we trimming one of these Gilraens? I don't know, first strike into the zombies is good. 2-3 into the zombies is good. Maybe if you're trimming a Sam here. Sorry, SCAMWISE. Alright, Stoneforge Mystic is not unhelpful. We'll give this a go. A little bit exposed to Wasteland here. But we get to make our creature first. And they can't Wasteland the plains. They probably have a Ghost Quarter in there because they need loads of different names for their lands. But again, we have plains in our deck, so it doesn't bother us. Yep, they got the Exploration. They've got 4 Exploration, 4 Mana Bonds. So they're going to have one of these effects most of the time. Will I rather have a Karakas or a Wasteland? Wastelanded. Interesting. I'd rather have a Karakas Wastelanded. I think we'll go get Batterskull here. Or do we get this Trailblazer's Torch? How quickly do I think our opponent's going to start attacking us is the question. Now let's just speedrun the dungeon, right? We can put this in next turn. And then the turn after might be able to Seasoned Dungeoneer. And then the turn after we should complete the dungeon. So that's pretty good. But if they start making guys in the very near future, we're in trouble. Winding away from our opponent, sure. Whole bunch of cards. How bad is it? A Ghost Quarter, Wasteland, Drop of Honey. Drop of Honey is pretty bad for us. Tabernacle. That's also pretty bad for us. Things keep being bad for us. An interesting choice here of whether or not we... I think it depends on if our opponent drops of Honey or not. Like, I think we want to keep this Wasteland for mana regardless. So we can put in the Trailblazer Torch in response to our Tabernacle trigger. Or we can put in the Kaldra Compleat, which doesn't get destroyed by Tabernacle because it's indestructible and Tabernacle is a destroy trigger, not a sacrifice trigger. Mana Bond, sure. Ghost Quarter. And nothing here. Let's see what they put in at the end step. I suspect nothing. Alright. I think we will put in the Kaldra Compleat here though. As much as I would like to start speedrunning the dungeon. We cannot pay. Draw a land? Draw a land. Come on. You're not a land. Alright. This is how we're trying to win the game. We can play a Stoneforge Mystic next turn, then put in the Trailblazer's Torch. Oh no, what is this? Crop Rotation? Was that the last card in their hand? It was. Is this going to be a Maze of Ith to completely blunt what we're doing here? I suspect the answer is yes. Okay, sure. Right, it's our opponent's turn. Another Crop Rotation. Okay. This is probably getting to... yeah, Field of the Dead. They cast Winding Way, then put in their whole hand. Alright. So now they're starting to get triggers on their zombie tokens. Alright, we will not pay for this because indestructible doesn't matter. Yes, I would like to use Ghost Quarter's ability. I'll have a Plains, please. Can I put anything in here? Doubt it, because I don't have any cards in hand. We will not pay for this because it's indestructible. And then we get to deploy a Stoneforge Mystic. We can find a Batterskull and put that in next turn. And that is pretty good against these zombie tokens. We will have to keep paying for it, but that's not too bad. Yeah, Maze of Ith, sure. But we're going to have 2 attackers in the very near future. Are they going to pay for their zombie? They are. Probably got quite a lot of mana over there. Right, they've just gone to their end step and they're mana bonding nothing in. Alright, we will activate this. Put in our Batterskull. Need to make sure we pay for the other gem next time though. Ancient Tomb. Hello there, friend. What are we doing with an Ancient Tomb? Probably shouldn't have played it right now. That's probably what we should have done, but we'll jam this Shadowspear. So we can give both of our creatures lifelink from next turn. They have a Maze of Ith here. I think I'm just going to pass a turn. Next turn we have 2 attackers. We need to make them click through it again. Right, they're on the manual removing counters from Dark Depths time. Alright. Paying for some zombies. They're down to 1 card a turn now, so if they can not find a Life from Alone, that'd be great. Or a Winding Way, or a Mulch. Like, their deck is kitted out to find these things, so... Right, what do they find? Alright, they found Life from Alone and 3 lands. That's going to be a problem. That's how I would describe that one. They're going to put all these lands in at the end step. Yep. So they're going to make 3 zombies and a 4th one off of the Verdant Catacomb trigger. How are we beating this? That is the question I am faced with. They have a 2020 incoming as well. I'll take a draw step then concede the game, I suspect. We can deal with the Dark Depths token, but they will just get it back next time. Yeah. I think we're just dead here. No point carrying on there. Yeah, this deck is much better against the initiative and it's quite explosive, so we can't just sort of ride that plan all the way. We did our best, I think. We needed them to brick for a few more turns, but again, they have so many hits because they've got 12 things that basically just completely set them on their way there, and like Winding Ways, Mulches, and Life from the Loams. So it's a bit of a big ask. And any fetch lands give them 2 zombies in the meantime. Thespian Stage would have given them a 2020. So the odds were stacked against us there. So we are 1 and 2, unfortunately, but let's carry on, see if we can get a positive record. Let's get around 4. Our opponent is a Yorion deck for round 4. But that doesn't tell us the most. It could be like Yorion Zenith, or it could be Death and Taxes. We'll see. I'm going to keep this hand. We can lead out on Chalice of the Void into Stoneforge Mystic with a Chancellor Annex trigger as well. Right, our Chalice resolved. Not a bad way to start the game, but it might mean that our opponent is on a deck that doesn't care about it as much. Snow-covered plains, like a Death and Taxes deck, perhaps. You can play around this to a reasonable extent. Obviously, it might mean they just couldn't counter and they wanted to counter it. That's the other option there. Let's go and get Andúril, Flame of the West. Our opponent is reading that one. So the good thing about this one as well is once you attack once with it, you get more creatures. So if they kill your weapon holder, you can just stick on another one and just keep going. Right, so they are getting rid of our Stoneforge Mystic, exiling Source to Plowshares, which they can't cast under the Chalice anyway. Sure. We do need to find some more creatures. Wasteland port. Understood. We're getting ported? I suspect we might be. Right, we have a Wasteland here. Well, I think my opponent's port. It is irritating, isn't it? Yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll set them back. We know they can't cast 1-drops. So put them back to 1 mana. It's pretty useful for us. Alright, so we get to deploy a creature on our turn. This might be another reader for our opponent. It was certainly a reader for me when I saw it. So this is our one that lets us blink other creatures that we control. Which is not something we currently do. If we can draw another Ancient Tomb, we can stick Andúril onto our Gilraen and have a nice attack. Our opponent's hand did have a bunch of 1-drops, but they are just pitching them all to Solitudes. So now we are kind of jammed up because we're all dressed up, but with no one to put it on, right? We got all the equipment, but no one to hold it. It's not very exciting. Let's see what they're working with over there. Skyclave Apparition. We could play this Andúril with the idea of it getting Skyclave Apparitioned. I don't hate that, as sad as that is. I think our opponent is unfortunately doing a similar thing to what we're doing, but the more streamlined version, because they are just straight up D&T. Oh, they missed their land day. Right, maybe... What am I saying maybe here? We got nothing. We need some more stuff. Right, we're going to get Apparitioned. What are they going to take here? Is it going to be the Chalice? It is a Chalice. Okay, so we don't even get a creature when they get rid of this. But we can put a Chalice for 1 again. Or we can just play like the best card in our deck instead. I'm down for that. I'm just debating if you want to have the Chalice in play first. We don't just want to play our Seasoned Dungeoneer and get it ploughed. We can afford to take 2 and then play the Dungeoneer next turn. If you find a land as well, then the 2 that we would have taken off Ancient Tomb isn't there anymore, so it's life neutral. Right, that's a little bit frustrating. But any land is going to give us the Dungeoneer. They're going to put Urza into hand, maybe? Truth of Sword and Justice. Okay, this is the new one. This is probably what we should be running instead of Andúril, I imagine. So this is protection from white and blue. Whenever a quick creature deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter. Oh no, this isn't the one I thought it was. So this is the one where you put a +1/+1 counter on creature you control, then proliferate. Okay, I thought it was the one that lets you draw 2 cards. Is it draw 2 cards, draw 1 card? I can't remember now. Alright, so we didn't hit the thing we wanted, and our... Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think we are going to die in about 3 turns. So they equip this. Yeah, make that guy large. The old pro-white weapon going to be pretty good against our mono-white deck. How do we beat this? Urza Saga tokens. That's how we beat it. And they proliferate onto our Chalice. They can cast 1-drops. Pretty strong. I don't even think we can... Can we cast a Seasoned Dungeoneer here? 6. And we'll take 6. 7, 8. Okay. This is what we have to do. So we're going to be on 1 life. And our opponent's going to get to go in the dungeon as well. But the plan here is play the Shadowspear out. Put the Shadowspear on our Dungeoneer. And hope that it works out for us. Not a full... Okay, no, it's game over. Alright. This is going to be a very difficult matchup. So we want What do we want? Guess we want Loran to blow up their things. Council Judgment, especially if they've got this pro-blue thing going on. Thalia is kind of a weird one to me here. I don't think we want to introduce initiative into this game, but Batterskull is something I'm happy to introduce to my opponent's face. I don't think this is where we want to be doing Thalia stuff. And slowing our opponent down a turn with Chancellor doesn't feel ideal either. We just want our removal and then our sort of value and grind, but yeah, we're going to be in a bit of trouble. Like, Seasoned Dungeoneer is kind of like what we have that they probably don't, that allows us to win the game, basically. Urza Saga is also pretty nifty. So this hand doesn't do anything. This hand also doesn't do anything, but for different reasons. This hand does things. Okay, I will keep a hand that does things. 2 cards on the bottom, I guess. Samwise, and kind of want to keep these planes rather than the Karakas just because of how awful land disruption is going to be against us. I don't want to just get jammed up by that entirely. So we turn 1 planes, turn 2 Saga, Stoneforge Mystic, and then if they kill our Stoneforge Mystic, then we go into an Urza Saga plan. If they don't, we go and get our Kaldra, and then we start being down. That's the plan. Let's get Stoneforge out there. Do you want the Batterskull here, or do you want the Kaldra? We'll just get the Kaldra for now. I think we're a ways off of hard casting a Batterskull. Getting ploughed here. They didn't play a Mother of Runes or an Ether Vial. Battle of Bywater. That's a reader. Let's see what that one is. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, then create a food token for each creature you control. Okay. It's kind of cool. Alright, so we're going to lose this, so we're going to be on an Urza Saga plan. Now, if they have a Wasteland, then we're kind of out of plans. Right. We are out of plans. They could have waited till our turn and let us use Samwise. That would have been nice. Our opponent is a million miles ahead right now. I don't think we want to be just jamming Samwise here. I think we just play out the Shadowspear. We want to get some value with our Samwise, I think, because these matchups are very grindy, and we kind of need to leverage every little bit of value we can get here. And we're not going to be attacked by the by this Mother of Runes. Alright, basic planes, I don't hate seeing those. Is there a world where we Samwise end of turn to pick up the Shadowspear? Let's see what they get off of this. Skyclave Apparition. Probably not, I guess. We might need to do some sort of Solitude line, but it's going to be very hard with what they've got here. So if we play out Stoneforge Mystic, it will die to the Skyclave. But I think that's an okay place to be, because we need to bait these stuff out. And we're going to get the Batterskull now, so if we can get up to the mana for Batterskull, that's something. So an Ancient Tomb would give us Batterskull, and that's something that's going to be a little bit tricky for them to answer until they find their Loran. But they have a Yorion, which they can then blink their Recruiter to go and find the Loran. Our opponent does have more tools because their deck is bigger. Umezawa's Jitte. How are we going to beat Umezawa's Jitte? Some might say that we just simply aren't. Right. The correct play here is to trade this off. Well, it's not even a trade-off. I get 1 counter off of it and I kill their guy. That's acceptable. But this Jitte is going to ruin us over a few turns. If I make a mistake and try and attack with the Mother of Runes, we can at least punish it with a Solitude. Right, we did draw the thing we wanted for the Batterskull though. This will play into their Skyclave Apparition somewhat. But we can at least kill a Skyclave Apparition. The Apparition can't take the Batterskull. So they can take... this is non-token actually, they can't take the Batterskull at all. Oh no, we actually played around it properly. Come on, brain. Umezawa's Jitte on that guy, sure. Alright, I think we go to tax here. Let's see how they want to operate here. Okay, they're going for the +2/+2. So this is a trade here. And gives us a 1/1. Now this 1/1 will die to the Jitte, which is obviously very awkward. If we try and equip the Batterskull, they'll kill in response. So that's why we're not doing that. We can hold up the Solitude. If they just think they want to get counters on, they might make a mistake and put it on the Mother of Runes. Karakas. A Batterskull of their very own. What are we doing to win this game? We need to kill their Mother of Runes. We can't even do that with the Samwise here. Yeah, this is a real doozy. A Seasoned Dungeoneer. Now the problem is, they're going to get more counters on their Jitte next turn. But we can cast Samwise here as well. Alright. I don't really want to introduce the initiative, but I don't think we have a choice here. Let's go to Plains. Let's play our Plains. So we can do Samwise stuff if we want to, or we can Solitude. Now Seasoned Dungeoneer can attack quite easily, but the problem here is they'll cast a Jitte. They'll equip a Jitte, attack, put some counters on, remove 4 counters, kill our Seasoned Dungeoneer. And then where are we going to be? In an awkward spot. I guess we can jam this Samwise, which can't be blocked by Batterskull at least. I guess if they ping off our illusion token with a Jitte, so that we can't chump block, they won't have enough counters to kill our Seasoned Dungeoneer. Alright, let's see what they opt for here. Oh, sorry, they will have enough counters, won't they? Because, no, yeah, they're not going to have enough counters now. So they want to get the initiative off us. And they will get it. And we will say okay with that. So they can -3 our Dungeoneer, which might stop it from getting power to actually steal the initiative, if that's a play they want to make. I don't think it is, but it's possible. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. Okay. In comes Samwise, I guess. Give me my Seasoned Dungeoneer back. Now, this is something they can Karakas, but it's not the end of the world if they do Karakas it for us. Now they can also ping it down with them as our Jitte, which is much better for them. Oh no, the poor food token is little Frodo all wrapped up in web. Oh dear. I guess we see if we can get the attack in first. If we block with Mother of Runes and protect it, then we can Solitude it instead. Does mean they get the initiative for a bit longer. Sure, okay. So we want to cast this on 1 first. Take off Swords to Plowshares from our opponent. Get ourselves a Dungeoneer. Where are we going? I think we are going into the Forge here. We kind of don't want our Seasoned Dungeoneer to become the Ring Bearer at any point either, because then they can just bounce it with Karakas. Just gaining some life off the food. I guess if they had nothing else to do with their mana, why not? We do have an emergency Solitude, but it's going to be very hard to use it profitably in the face of Mother of Runes. Now, if they're just going to keep bricking and just hitting lands, that's not the worst for us. Alright, this gives it Vigilance, which is kind of annoying. And the Jitte. We unfortunately have to let this hit us, I think. But we can equip our own Batterskull if we want to. And we are dealing more damage than our opponent. But they have Jitte, so one of those ones, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make our guy bigger. Let's go attacks. Protection creatures, quite nice. Okay, so we're going to draw a Solitude next turn, so we might be able to actually kill the Mother of Runes. I don't think this is going to be great for us, the old trap, but I want the archive. So I think hitting the trap here is just... I could do some maths planning things forward about how it's going to go. I think we're generally just going to be looking at this sort of thing. Right, I think we just let this go. And then next turn we Solitude twice. I got lots of mana. I have 6 Jitte counters, which is a lot. Rishadan Port. This is real danger town for us here. Skyclave Apparition is... yeah, that's gonna... and they've got a Gilraen in hand. They just have more resources than we do here. Right, so we're drawing this Solitude. which means we have to fire this off now. We can't fire it off now, can we? Because those go at pro and we can't do it in response. Alright, I guess we're just getting absolutely bodied over here. We can pitch cast both of these, but then our opponent is just so far ahead with their Yorion and Batterskull and stuff. Ah, oh, jeez. I guess we could do it next turn. Maybe... that means we have to probably bounce the Batterskull. Oh, jeez. If we're taking 7 here... No. I think we just have to take it here. Yeah, they pump a load of counters with their Jitte. This is 7, 8, 9. Okay. This is 9, 10, 11. So if they pump it once more, it's lethal. Okay. Let's discard our whole hand to kill this one Mother of Runes. This is a pretty amazing exchange for our opponent, to be honest. They're going to gain a whole bunch of life. We've lost 4 cards to kill their 1-drop. And they've still got all this stuff that they can reload with. A Yorion. So this will flicker their Batterskull. What can I realistically do in this situation? Like, Loran of the third path is a start, I guess. I'm just trying to work out if we bounce our Batterskull here. I think we have to bounce our Batterskull. Now we're going to get ported off of our Ancient Tomb. So 4, 8, 12 damage of those 3 guys. What we got? Trap, Archives. I don't think we have a choice. I think we play this. Get the initiative, draw the card off of Archives, and then concede the game. I think. A Wasteland. Does that achieve anything for us here? So we can block here. We take 4, 8, 9, 10. No, we are just dead. Yeah, we got absolutely demolished in that round, to be honest. Our opponent's deck is just a better version of what we're doing for the most part. They've just got so much more value to grind with. Our like 1 trump card compared to them is the initiative creature. And that's not always going to be very good against a deck that's got a whole load of removal and like Solitude, Swords to Plowshares, this Battle of Bridgie Town, whatever it's called. The Skyclave Apparition, the ability to blink them all as well, the fact they even start with an additional card. We're always under the gun there, so we are struggling here, but let's see if we can get the 2-3 to finish off the league. I guess we're just going to play an Urza Saga game here with a bit of Chancellor protection. Alright. So we're looking like some sort of Delver variant, I would say. Mishra's Baubles to fuel Delirium, that sort of thing. Alright, let's try a Chalice on 1. Pretty good in this matchup. Dazed. Alright, we will not pay here. We've got another one to try with next turn. And a Ponder, sure. So not a threat, which is good for us. Be interested to see if they're on a Grixis build, which is kind of the best build at the moment because of Bowmasters. Because of course it is. Right, so this time we can play around Daze. Okay, so we shut off their 1-drops. And now we're just going to start making some Saga tokens and hopefully win the game with those. A Shadowspear. Don't want to pay 2 life to make a Shadowspear that is going to go into my own Chalice of the Void. No, I do not. So let's just pass a turn. Pretty annoying that we drew this Shadowspear, if I'm being honest. Because I was kind of hoping to get that off of this Saga and just ride our Saga tokens to victory. Chalice of the Void into the Chalice. The reason... sorry, Lightning Bolt into Chalice of the Void. The reason they're doing this is to make their Murktide Regent better. It's not a mistake. It's a common play pattern versus Chalice. It's basically just paying a down payment on the Murktide Regent. Which is probably going to beat us. But we have Solitude in our deck. It's going to be 6/6 Murktide. Chalice. Okay, so it's going to be a 7/7 Murktide. Let's make a Saga construct. Then we want a Chrome Mox here. We will imprint this Chancellor. We might lose this game because of our own Chalice of the Void stopping us from putting this Shadowspear into play. What can we do here? Right, we're dead next turn anyway at this stage. So if we play the Thalia, we can bash for 4, 8, 9, 10 next turn. But we need to find another 9 damage from somewhere. If we didn't make this construct token, we could have made a Seasoned Dungeoneer, but that does a similar amount of damage to a construct token. That's not really getting us anywhere. If we draw that sword that makes flyers, I've just checked, and the flyers that makes it tapped, so that's no good for us. We just have to draw a Solitude next turn. Does that mean we want to play this Thalia? I've told it's pretty irrelevant at this point. As long as we're going to get killed by this, and then they can't lightning bolt us because of the Chalice. And the Colligans command us to blow this up and do everything, and we're just going to lose anyway. So, all right, so you have to pass the turn and hope for the best. Really, if we draw the Solitude, we might be okay. But if they sandbagged any sort of counter spells, then we'll probably get rocked by those. Do we draw Solitude? Come on, a Plains. 2, 4, 5, 6. So we need an additional white mana to play this. We can't play the Kaldra Compleat for another 5 damage. So this would have been 5, 10, 15, 16, 17. But we couldn't cast it because of the Thalia. We can cast this, but we die. Yeah, our opponent's just got us pretty handily there. All right. Thalia's pretty good against these decks. Want to do a load of cantrips. More removal from Murktide is probably useful. I don't hate the Batterskull here either. It contests the board relatively well. What is no good here? I don't think these 3 mana 2/3s are going to be good against the deck with a bunch of lightning bolts. So we can say no to that one. If we're boarding another 2-drop, we can probably trim one of the Sams here, which haven't really done anything for us all league, to be honest. What are we looking at for our last cut? Maybe it's a Chrome Mox. I don't really like pitching multiple cards against this deck where I can avoid it. Alright, we're going to try and run like this. Turn 1 Thalia into Wastelands, but no persistent mana. I don't think we can keep this. Turn 1 Chalice into Saga, so it's kind of the same hand as last time, which wasn't good enough. But if we'd have had the Shadowspear in our deck, it would have been good enough. So, yeah, I think we were a bit unfortunate to lose that last one, but we'll keep this one. We'll get rid of this bonus agent too. They can't daze this one, so they have to force a will if they want to stop the Chalice here. And then next time when we play the Saga, we can also play the Andúril. We do have a Karakas to feed to a Wasteland at some point. Alright, there is that. Bit mean. Let's just play out the Plains here, rather than trying to feed something into a Wasteland. Now we don't have to. Then we can play the Saga, and then the turn after we can start activating the Saga. And maybe that'll be good enough. Our opponent's probably going to have Meltdowns in, which is another reason to board out the Chrome Mox that we did. Underground Sea. And a pass. Chancellor the Annex, right on time. Gonna go Gadget Urza Saga, let's pass the turn. Some of these Grixis builds only have 3 Wastelands in instead of 4. I think that's wrong, personally. I think the builds of 4 are just best. But, oh, there's another Wasteland. Okay. I'm just going to get down in the dirt here. Alright, we drew another Saga, sure. Third Wasteland would be annoying, but sometimes these things happen. Mystic Sanctuary. That is not a Wasteland. That's the only land in our opponent's hand that turn. Because you wouldn't play this otherwise. I guess not. That's not strictly speaking true, actually. Maybe you would want to play the Mystic Sanctuary because you have a 3-drop that you want to cast. So you may as well have the attached one. Let's see what our opponent goes for. Mission's Bauble. Cracking the Bauble. Let's make a friend. They have no red mana yet either for Meltdown, which is reassuring. Although some of them might be off Meltdown because it's not that good against the Super One Ring deck. Right, we'll get the Shadowspear this time. Let's play Chrome Mox. Print this Chancellor, I guess. Equip Shadowspear onto our guy. Like, we are wholly dead to Meltdown here. But if they don't have it, they die like next turn. So they take 6 this turn, and next turn they take 7, 13. Or maybe they're not 10. Alright, so they're bouncing our Chalice. Okay. They could have saved themselves a point of damage by doing that earlier. A Brainstorm, sure. We have a Solitude we can't pitch cast, which is something that's come up multiple times this league. So that's certainly something to note with this build. Volcanic Island, we get Meltdown. That was not a Meltdown. Okay. We are way ahead of this where we're at right now. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Not wholly unhelpful. Let's go for the Chalice for 1. This pumps our construct, so it's worth doing before combat. You can see a Brainstorm response. We are. I'm going to leave the card on top. Please don't do that. They did not. Sauron's Ransom, this is a cool one. I haven't played a deck with it yet, but it will happen soonish. It's like a super fact or fiction one. They might know if they're dead, depending on what the top of their library holds. They also don't have Delirium either. They can soak up less damage. Alright, Force of Will pitching a Daze. Alright. Are they going to get Delirium now? They are going to get Delirium. Do we care? No, we're still going to swing. Whilst our creatures are bigger, I have no interest in Solitude in our opponent. Solitude is for Murktide. Something that would just stop our aggression. Where the Dragon's Rage Channeler having to attack means that Murktide isn't enough here on its own anyway. A Wasteland. Does that do anything for us here? I think we can play out another artifact. Just pump our guys. A Daze. I think we can pay here. I don't think the Wasteland is going to matter right now. This is an additional point of damage in case something goes wrong. So it's like if they remove this construct will still be lethal. A Daze. Okay, I can't play that one. What have you got, opponent? An Unholy Heat targeting the big one. Yes, this is why we tried to play the thing out. Sure. So we put our opponent to 1. So it shuts off Force of Will, shuts off fetch lands. And they are dead next turn, but our creature is lightning boltable is the problem. And these lightning bolts have been locked under a Chalice for a while, so it's very likely they can have one. Yep. Okay. Right, so now we have an answer for this Murktide region. So that's okay. If we can find a land, we can hardcast this as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Would I rather hardcast a Solitude or have a Seasoned Dungeoneer? Seasoned Dungeoneer kills on our next turn because it's unblockable. I think we should just cast a Seasoned Dungeoneer. How many days have we seen? 1, 2, 3 days. So we can play around the 4th days. But it does cost us our Solitude, which is tough. I think we have to play around the days just because the Dungeoneer is game over if I get to turn it sideways once. 1, 2, 3, 4. Planes. Play our planes. Might as well equip this now. Be mana efficient in case we draw a Solitude next turn. Alright, we just want to make our guy bigger so it can dodge more removal. Like, it dodges Lightning Bolt plus Bowmasters right now. Doesn't dodge Unholy Heat though. Alright, we got there. That was tough. We've got another one to go. Don't want to do anything differently here. I don't think so. I think we just kind of got to stick to the plan. Basically, Urza Saga. We played the good cards from that, right? We played Urza Saga and we played Seasoned Dungeoneer. And those are the things that won us that game. Oh, and Chalice, I suppose. Did a reasonable amount of work and slowed our opponent down. We've got removal, but we don't really have a game plan. I think we can do better. Yeah. I think that counts as better. I'll get rid of the Batterskull for now. Plan is Thalia into Seasoned Dungeoneer. Again, this Chrome Mox not really being what I want it to be. Let's try Shadowspear. I don't care if they daze that one. And we'll pass. I have some decisions to make here about what land we want to play. Do we want to play a Thalia into Daze, or do we want to risk our Ancient Tomb here? I think we'll play Thalia around Daze. It's a little bit awkward. Again, this Chrome Mox is not really doing the work for us. I think we're going to get Lightning Bolt at end of turn here. Oh, Bowmasters. That's worse. Our opponent's doing a brainstorm, taking a bit of time about it. How badly is it going to go for us? We can drop a Seasoned Dungeoneer next turn. If it lands and can stick around, then it should be good. And, you know, Seasoned Dungeoneer on its own is probably enough to win a game, if uncontested. The problem is, we've already seen Unholy Heat from our opponent. And there's a Wasteland which cuts us off of the Seasoned Dungeoneer mana. Yeah, this is going to be rough. Which is something I feel like I've been saying a bit this league. We have Chrome Moxes we can't use. We could just Wasteland our opponent off of red mana and just say no thank you. I think that's probably what we have to do. Try and slow the damage down a little bit. Takes us further away from Seasoned Dungeoneer, which is grim. But, alright, it doesn't matter. Sure. Alright, we're going to take a beating from this Orcish army here. Our opponent didn't shuffle off their Ponder as well, so I'm pretty sure we're in the dirt here. A Seasoned Dungeoneer that we can't cast yet. Now, if we hadn't played that Wasteland last turn, we might have been able to cast a Seasoned Dungeoneer this turn into a Daze. Certainly a possibility. My logic for using the Wasteland was to try and stop our opponent from deploying a big threat like a Murktide. Now, we can take hits of 2 for a little bit. It's not the worst. Thalia. That means we have to throw out one of our Chrome Moxes now, because it won't happen later. So I think we have to put the Seasoned Dungeoneer underneath this one, and then we'll cast this around Daze. This at least is first striking, so it can deal with the Bowmasters a little bit. But if they have a Bowmasters, it just gets absolutely ruined. Playing X1 creatures in the format right now is not great, unless they have some great value when they first come into play. Yep, okay, so they just have a Bowmasters. So properly in the dirt now. You've got 3-turn clock. Seasoned Dungeoneer can do a reasonable job of bringing this game back if we can find the mana. But we now don't have a chance to play around Daze unless we draw an Ancient Tomb. Okay. This is just a 1-1 channeler for now. Yikes. I guess we just have to play the Chrome Mox, put Sam under it, and hope that we can resolve our Seasoned Dungeoneer. And that he can hold a Shadowspear with the best of them. This could be a Daze. Feels like a hard cast Daze. There it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If this flips, then we're definitely dead. I guess we get a turn to find something like, that's what I what? Maybe place something in equip. So we can gain some life. Alright, we're just dead. Alright, we got smushed right there. So that's a good example of why you don't play X1s in the format right now. So let's have a look at the deck. So at the top I said this was a bit like the Perez deck that won a couple of challenges. However, what that deck had differently, it had a 4th Urza Saga. It had more acceleration, I seem to recall. So it can actually play these 4-drops a little bit more reliably. And it wasn't running Chalice of the Void, I don't think. It was running 1-drops of its own, like the Esper Sentinel, which obviously isn't very good now because of Bowmasters. But it was running a 1-drop. It was also running things like Swords to Plowshare, so it just had more interaction, which is something that I felt we really lacked in a lot of games. We didn't have the interaction, and sometimes our interaction of Solitude wasn't actually able to be used because we didn't have the white cards to go with it. We never once got to do anything with this. I think we played it once, and that was about it. We never got to activate the ability of it. Samwise didn't get to do very much. We got back like a Lotus Petal and stuff here and there. We never really got to live the dream of like multiple Wasteland in our opponents and stuff like that. It just seems a lot of hoops to jump through to get this to work. And there was a matchup where we didn't even want it because our opponent had Karakas on their side of the board. So it would have been a bit of a liability. I think if you do want to play Samwise, you need to lean into Aether Vial is where we want to be here. So if you want to be a Samwise deck, instead of being a Chrome Mox deck, you should be an Aether Vial deck and lean more towards the Death and Taxes style of play rather than this sort of Perez style, sort of semi-initiative type shenanigans. Andúril did not do very much. It's quite expensive to play any of the 3-mana equipments, like even the swords, which are, you know, let's be honest, you know, Sword of Fire and Ice is going to be a better card than this most of the time. I do like that it makes you more spirits to get it going with, and then those spirits can then hold the weapon and just keep the chain going. That is kind of cool, but I don't think this is quite up to scratch for Legacy playability. Like, I would have rather had the Batterskull from the sideboard in the main deck, or maybe one of the swords, but probably not. Trailblazer's Torch is another one. Like, there's so many good equipments that you have to be better than in order to get included. So, like, you know, it's not going to be better than Kaldra, obviously. Is it better than Batterskull? I don't think so. Is it better than Trailblazer's Torch? I don't think so either as an option. Is it better than any of the Swords of X and Y? It's better than some of the bad ones, but I don't think it's as good as the best ones. Like the new one that I think lets you flip the top 2 cards and you get to play them until end of turn. That one seems a lot better. Or, you know, just classic Sword of Fire and Ice. Also, we only have 3 Urza Saga, so a 4th Urza Saga might have helped a little bit to give us denser threats. But, like, you know, these Chancellors are kind of just there to go into Chrome Mox and sometimes give a little bit of disruption for the combo decks. But I think I'd rather be not a Chalice deck and have access to things like Deafening Silence in the sideboard. So rather than trying to build this like the sort of Perez-y, initiative-y style decks, I think I would rather go the other way into Aether Vial. So let's have a little look what that would look like briefly. I don't think we should be playing this Andúril. Let's minimize this. All right. So actually, let's leave it here for this. So these 4 Chrome Moxes would become Aether Vials. And then I think you want some Urza Saga. If you want to keep playing Urza Saga, which I think is probably doable here. We do have a lot of colourless lands though. 21 lands and 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 of them. So the majority of our lands there aren't white mana sources in our mono white deck. That feels a little bit awkward. But if you were playing these things that are good with Samwise, you can have things like Soul Guide Lantern, which is good off of Urza Saga, and it's something that Samwise can mess around with. I guess if we're cutting the Chrome Moxes, we probably need some more lands. I don't think we want to be a Chancellor deck, so maybe we can have some more lands in from that slot. And if we're not playing Chalice anymore, we can have some Source to Plowshares, which I think would probably be a bit better too. I'm not really sure that this card is legacy playable. Like, obviously we gave it a go, but there was never a situation where I thought I would want to draw this. You already have to have 2 creatures in play for this to be doing anything, and then you need to be spending your mana in it to keep it going. So I think what I'd like to be if I was a Samwise deck would be having these Recruiter of the Guards, having a load of Recruiter of the Guards, and just constantly finding more things and getting more value that way. And we probably should be a Yorion deck as well. Let's be honest. Yorion is just too powerful a tool to have, so I can't really rebuild this fully into a Yorion deck right now because I need to add another 20 cards, change the mana base, etc. I think if you go into Yorion, you can play some Samwise, you can go up to the full 4 Urza Sagas, have your 4 Recruiters, 4 Thalias, get some Source to Plowshares in here, and some Aether Vials. But then the question is, what are you doing differently to Death and Taxes apart from playing this Samwise? And that's where I think you need to really make the decision of what you want. So Soul Guide Lantern, you know, it's good, but that's only one thing. There's got to be some more stuff that we could play here to get that extra value. And I don't know quite what those cards would be. And also, we're adding additional X1s to our deck with another X1 in against a format that is absolutely brutal. If you watch Thraben News channel, I played a Death and Taxes deck the other day and just got bodied by Bowmasters like again and again and again, because Bowmasters is everywhere right now, and I don't think this deck really respects Bowmasters enough when we're trying to do like the Samwise stuff. So honestly, I don't think this deck can be fixed in a traditional sense. I think it has to be rebuilt in a different way, but hopefully this video is definitely going to be useful in terms of the donor who wanted to see this stuff and sort of see how some of the stuff is clunky and doesn't work or whatever. I also wonder about Samwise in terms of the effect it has. If you want to be recurring Wastelands, is it easier to just get Crucible of Worlds going? Is that just an easier plan here? Now obviously Samwise is a 2-1, it holds weapons, it has flash, it does quite a lot in theory, but you have to be precise about when you get it to get your Wasteland, whereas Crucible will always give you a Wasteland. So maybe something like just Oswald Fiddlebender Toolbox to go and get your Crucible would kind of be a similar effect. So maybe you could play this in an Oswald deck, and then when you're sacrificing stuff to Oswald, your Samwise can then get it back again, and then you can just keep going and get some value that way. That's a thought I've just had that I think sounds quite interesting to me. Oswald Fiddlebender is a card I enjoy a great deal. I think it's, you know, pretty powerful for what it does. It doesn't die to Bowmasters, which is another tick for it. So maybe this should be like an Oswaldy style deck with Samwise, and rather than, because that way you can establish an engine effectively where you're Oswalding away your thing, you're getting it back with your Samwise, and maybe you've got some way of tutoring for Karakas, so you can just keep repeating that loop if you want to, if you're grinding. But if not, you can just use your Oswald to find some really potent silver bullets in your deck, which is something that I think is required these days. I think a main deck Null Rod to find in a Yorion deck with main deck Oswald is pretty cool. And that's something I'd be interested in doing, because Null Rod is very potent right now if you have access to it. So yeah, that's kind of where I think this deck should go. Ether Vial, Samwise, Oswald. I don't think you can run Espacento anymore. I think the card's just too... It was fine before. I was never like amazingly impressed with it, but it was good enough. But in a world of Bowmasters, I just don't think it's good enough anymore. Which is why you may have noticed I haven't played Mono White Painter on the channel for a while. I think that deck has taken a big hit with the way the format's changed. Now that's not to say we can't innovate with that deck, and I've got something working in the pipeline at some point where I'm going to play that deck again. But going back to this one, with some of the learning I've had from other mono white decks and playing today, I do think you want to change up where you're going here. Probably Samwise, Oswald, Staff the Storyteller, more removal in your deck, full set of Recruiter of the Guard, a little bit of tutor box off of the Recruiter, a little bit of tutor box off of the Oswald. So you've got some really powerful answers in your deck for things. And I think that'll probably work a lot better than what we're playing here. Make sure it's Yorion as well, so you get that extra value here. It's very hard to play a mono white deck in the format right now, in my opinion. It's a bit grim. Like, you got these combo decks that can just go underneath you, and it's very hard to interact with. And then you've got all these other decks that you would normally try and prey upon. They've just got this card that comes down and pings away one of your guys really easily, and it's like, that's awkward. So yeah, I think that's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you would like a donation deck on my channel, please get in touch with me via the Discord, which is linked below, or you can just message me as a comment and I can get back to you and give you somewhere to get in touch with me if that's easier for you. Like, comment, subscribe. These things help. And check out the Patreon if you're interested in Dark Depths style content, because that's going up there. And I think by the time this video goes out, there should be the primer, the updated primer for Green Black Depths for this month with all the new Lord of the Rings changes to the format in. So that's definitely worth checking out if you're interested in playing Turbo Depths. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.